From before the tournament, there were reports of players that were doubtful starters because of the knocks, sometimes serious, sometimes not so serious, that they'd received on club duty in their various leagues. Notable are the likes of Ribery, who's not in Brazil, Ronaldo, who is in Brazil, as well as Luis Suarez, who made a remarkable recovery from knee surgery. I have the pleasure of welcoming a physician who is actively involved in sports medicine, but particularly focused on football, the secretary of the Professional Soccer League Medical Group, Dr. Lervasen Pillay. Good morning.
Morning, Kendall. How are you?
Very good. Thank you, and really appreciate you giving us this Sunday morning.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me here.
All right, let's get right to the meat of it. In the news leading up to the World Cup, when squads were being announced, the Uruguayan nation was worried about its star and key player, Luis Suarez. After his knee surgery, it was expected that this guy would need 6 weeks to recover. He came back in 4. Was it too soon for him to come back?
Not necessarily. It's all dependent on exactly what the nature of the injury was. The way media reports are, they keep things at bay. But it suggested that he had a meniscal injury, and there were 2 ways of approaching that, both by the keyhole approach with reviews, which is an arthroscopy, and they could have repaired it, which would be a longer recovery time, or they could have just cleaned things up to settle it down to allow him to be able to participate. It's not unusual and it's not unheard of, players coming back so soon after that type of salvage surgery, just that the long-term consequences need to be questioned as well. And that will only be certain after a while.
All right. Because, I mean, from the understanding, something like keyhole surgery, the meniscus being the 2 ligaments, is it?
Yes, no. It's the little shock absorbers inside the knee itself.
Right.
That's what the meniscus is.
And that normally takes a bit of time to heal.
Yes,
but like you said, it could either have been something more intrusive or just trimming the edges, just a salvage operation.
Salvage operation, just to clean things up, to avoid any flare-ups during these next 4 weeks.
So is it, I mean, for example, in his match against England, he didn't play the full 90 minutes. Yeah. He got hauled off the pitch. Do you think it might be flaring up again already?
I don't think it's the knee. I think it's more match fitness. Being off since that surgery, obviously he hasn't had the opportunity to prep himself as appropriately as the rest of the squad. And if you saw the way he was stretched off, it was cramps, calf cramps.
Right.
And that's probably the case.
Okay, let's hope so. Let's hope it's not something that it's going to kill his career within the next 18 months or so. And then Cristiano Ronaldo. He's also another star who's very key to his team, Portugal. He's clearly not fully fit yet. I mean, he left a training session with an ice pack on his knee.
Yeah. Well, an ice pack is also just seen as, it is a medical management of pain relief, some evidence, some places, sometimes no evidence. What he has been reported quite a lot in the media of a patella tendonitis. A common problem in footballers, which can be treated in simple methods with physiotherapy and medication, sometimes injections as well, and you will have flare-ups. It's just that with the pressures of him being in a team like that, difficult decision for the medical team to make in order to help the team, help the coach, help the country. And a lot of those decisions come as a combined decision-making between the medical staff, the coaching staff, and the player themselves.
Yeah.
So I think he can be salvaged during the matches and just treated in between. It's still, we need to see what happens as time progresses and as the games become few and far apart. That's when the real crux of the matter will come in.
Something that I want to come back into a little later is the decision-making process about who decides when the player is really fit. But we'll touch on that just now. Now, a player who chose not to go to the World Cup was Franck Ribery. France's Franck Ribery has had an astonishing season with Bayern Munich. In fact, I do believe that he's been one of the best players in Europe for the last couple of seasons, at least, you know. And he chose not to go. He chose not to be in the World Cup. Did he make the right decision?
That's a difficult one to also answer, because I think what had happened is, if you look at the reports on his injury, which was a back-related injury, there was a contentious issue between his team physician at the club that he was at and the national team physician and the treatment approaches. And there were words thrown around between the doctors and all these type of things about who's making the right decision. And at the end of the day, the player had decided that he had made the decision rather to get his back sorted out, because he's got more years ahead of him. So in effect, he's made that decision, and I think perhaps it was the right decision, and probably because he was not comfortable with the treatment he was going to be suggested to get at France. And would rather go and was more confident with his club doctor's opinion.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think he had made the right decision. Better having a player that makes a decision like that than go into a World Cup with a one man in the squad that is not going to be effective.
Yeah, true that. Now, with just that, I mean, about how he made the decision that, look, you know, he's going to get his back sorted out. The one doctor says one thing, another one says something else, because you stand where you sit. Who really actually makes those decisions? And I'm asking you this specifically because there's something that I'd want to talk about, the match when, what is it, Uruguay against England. Alvaro Pereira got a knock on the head, a Raheem Sterling knee to the head, knocked him out cold. And the guy stood up again. He was being led off the field and he chose not to leave the field. In fact, he was remonstrating with the medical team and came back on the field. Now, who actually decides at that moment what's supposed to be happening?
I think the two scenarios are very different with regards to the Ribery situation. That as a player, he had enough time to make that decision with his health and well-being and further career in order, with the opinions of the physicians. With regards to the Pereira incident, that day I feel it should be the medical staff's decision to make and not, especially in a serious injury, as a concussion. The FIFA laws, law number 5, allows for those decisions to be made and overruled by the physician. But again, what had happened here is that between the player and the technical staff on the bench, they had made the decision to keep him on. The danger there was that if he had to have a secondary concussion, so secondary knock to the head, which is even more serious than the first one which he had had, where it could have been a life-threatening situation. So, yes, good and well, he didn't follow the protocols, but the physician should have been a little bit more hard and fast. Some of the new recent media reports say that the FIFA medical officers had the team doctor and he had said he'd done a full neurological evaluation on Pereira to allow him to go back onto the field, which was strange to me because when I watched the match, he had signaled to change.
Yes.
So there's always this conflicting evidence of other pressures behind the medical staff at the end of the day.
Do you think they should, similar to other sporting codes, like in rugby, for example, where there is time allowed for a player to be tested for concussion, he gets a replacement, and if the guy is fine, he comes back in?
Yes, I see a group called Fifth Pro, which supports international pro footballers around the world. They've suggested that. I just can't see something like that working in football because it's lots of different aspects from a technical perspective, from a traveling perspective, because that means you have to have a replacement player for a defender, defending midfielder, a person up front, a winger, a goalkeeper. So you'll end up adding more cost to that. You'll be adding more staff, a staff complement of at least another 5-6 players who might just go there for no reason whatsoever.
Right.
And I think the decisions just need to be a little bit more hard and fast made by the physicians.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what, Dr. Lervasen Pillay, I really think that there's a lot more that you and I can talk about. In fact, I think there's a lot more that our viewers would like to hear about because questions come up. Josie Altidore pulling up with a hamstring injury, and I'm already signaling to my producer that we're going to be speaking to you again this coming week so we can talk about those injuries that happened in the first match, in the first 20 minutes. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Kendall.
Alrighty. That was Dr. Lervasen Pillay, and he was a doping control officer at the FIFA Confederations Cup in 2009, and he's also a member of the PSL Medical Subcommittee.